I'm gonna get us started on number 2. So number 2 is about affiliation. So I'm gonna talk to you real quick. You don't.
District?
You don't.
Oh, okay.
You don't.
Okay.
So just before Steve jumps in and talks about the district budget post affiliation, I want to talk to you all about a little road bump in the road that we've run into with our conversations with Overlake. So this is very, very fresh information. This is 24 hours old. So Steve and I gathered with them yesterday to try to understand. And so I'm just going to be able to explain to you kind of the what has our attention right now. And in these next 2 weeks, we'll be putting together a solution. But let me tell you what the issue that has come up is, because it's the first time we've come up with an issue in this whole experience. And so it has to do with the cost-based reimbursement. So let me just walk through what's displayed up here for you. So if you just look at us right now, so this is us, and through our cost report, our revenue comes in 3 different buckets. So we have revenue that comes in from operations, we have revenue that comes in from taxes, and then we have a revenue that comes in through the cost report, which is kind of a rebate of sorts through the cost report that is a reflection of the money that we've paid out in interest expense.
In what?
Interest expense. Interest expense, so around our LTGO bonds and our revenue bonds. So the cost report recoups some of those expenses back to us. And so that recoupment, or what I kind of call a rebate, finds its way onto our revenue line. And then our expenses are the expenses that we incur from operations and the expenses that are part of that interest expense. So this is very, there's a lot more detail, and you guys all know the more detail, but if we just do it in this really high level bucket system. So
where does depreciation come in when you're talking about expense? Operations?
Operations.
Yeah. So again, this is not intended to be, this is really intended to talk about the buckets.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the new idea, that we've been working with, so having NUCO and having the district, having them become 2 separate entities. So in that scenario, you've got NUCO that's going to be the one that has the cost report, and then you'll have the district that will be the one that has the interest expense. So now if you try and follow the money, who is it that said that? Sutton?
No, it was
Watergate. Or somebody.
It was Watergate. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the
Okay.
money. Yeah.
Okay. So here, let's follow the money.
Yeah.
So revenue from operations, you see where that goes. That revenue from operations will go to NUCO in the new idea. If you look at taxes, the revenue from taxes will continue now to come to the district in the new idealized world. Expenses from operations will go to NUCO, obviously, up where operations lives. And interest expense will stay with the district. But the cost reimbursement, the rebate that comes from the expenses the expenses associated with paying for the interest, it doesn't go anywhere. It's lost. Nobody gets it. So Medicare wins. Medicare wins. Nobody gets that. It doesn't go to either group. And the problem is because the interest expense has to be incurred by the one who's doing the cost report.
So NUCO would?
No.
No.
One gets, because you see how NUCO is the one with the cost report,
right,
and the district is the one with the interest expense.
Okay.
So because they're not together,
yeah,
because the cost report and the interest expense isn't with the same entity, that $1.5 to $1.9 million goes to no one.
Float. Oh.
Float felt better than in a dark hole loss.
Or that could be remedied, though.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to spend the next 2 weeks aggressively working on to figure out what is the solution around that. But I didn't want to know this. I didn't wanna walk into tonight to know this and not make sure that you knew it as well.
That's very good to know.
And then when we meet, so in 2 weeks, we have our next work study, and so hopefully we'll be walking in with solution to figure out how do we recoup that.
Yeah.
Because that's the last thing we want to do is walk away and leave that much money sitting, not coming to anybody's benefit.
What is Overlay's position today on this?
That we
Situation.
are all completely aligned around our reaction to this. Yeah, so when we yesterday went through and talked about it with them, we spent a lot of hours just talking through and making sure that we all completely understood, doing a bunch of drawings. So it's a lot of alignment, and so there's no contention.
Hopefully we
just
won't have to
figuring
do
it
a
out.
cost report.
I don't think
Well, you
we're
just-
allowed to.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, so we've got to
It's
figure out
true,
what's a structure that will allow the cost report and the interest expense
Together.
to be in a together version,
Together.
so that those dollars are
Right.
reaped. So
Meanwhile,
anyways,
it's up in the cloud.
yeah, like I said, up in the cloud or down in the
Somewhere
dark.
down.
Either way, they're not accessible and not to anybody's benefit.
You have a subsidiary of the hospital that is wholly owned by Overlay Controls. Otherwise, it's the subsidiary is us. Therefore, something
Therefore,
like
we should
that, I
get
would
it.
imagine.
It'll require something of that nature
Some
and
extra entity, you think, Skip?
and try to have it
You know, I don't know,
consistent.
but I have to believe that this has been figured out some other way, and so I know that this
Yeah.
team's gonna work to find a pathway, I'm sure, that has to be found. You can't leave that kind of money on the table.
No.
So, yeah, so we are not at a place of saying, we have no ideas. Actually, we have a list of ideas, and but sharing, going through the whole list tonight is
I would imagine
productive.
the two legal counsel between the two, we could figure something.
Right.
And it's as much legal counsel, but it's also involved in the
Finance.
cost report.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cost report experts, and so they're part of the conversation as well. So, sorry, I'm like leaving you hanging, but this, again, now you know where we are, and we're really investing a lot of time.
No, I appreciate
And
that.
then More
That's fine.
to come.
When did you discover all of this issue? When did you discover that there's this?
Sorry, that's what I said earlier, this is 24 hours old.
Oh, and we're 24 hours. Okay, so it just.
Takes a little more time to write.
Are
Yeah.
there,
So,
are there any models?
yeah, and so 45 minutes of that was creating this really fun animated slideshow.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Are there any
nice.
models
Extra.
out there
Oh,
that
okay.
we can look at where this has happened before to another organization?
This will happen to any organization who has done this, who a critical access hospital, who has gone through this breaking apart.
There have been some.
I'm sure there have, and we'll have to find them. You know, we've been using the model, the Swedish Edmunds model,
Yeah.
but that didn't involve critical access hospital.
Right.
So we don't have this in that model to follow that, and so we'll have to go out and work to identify. It's hopefully Brian will be able to find it.
Yeah.
For all the work that he's done around. It's just none of the local experiences
Okay.
happen.
So burden is all
Makes
out.
sense.
It's not like the model is different.
I'm reluctant to answer you because I don't know what the outcome of the next couple of weeks of work is going to be. So you said burden out, and so I'm reluctant to acknowledge that with a nod or a
That's
shake.
okay. Yeah. I know.
Okay. I've talked enough, and then let Steve talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, your questions are, there's not a simple solution, but there's.
Yeah.
we'll
I'm
find
sure
it,
you'll find
you
it.
know, it's where we are. I wanted to give you a
Nothing
quick
is impossible.
update on our post-affiliation budget. With what Kim just said, this will change. But what I want to do is get in front of you every time and say, this is this iteration. You see, August 28th, 2008 was today's version of it. And we took information from our last meeting and then expanded the data. And then we'll be working on what does it look like under the solution Kim talked about. Again, I don't think your post-affiliation roles are going to change. Your landlord, population health, oversight of tax dollars and managed debt. That's what's left with the district, post-affiliation discussion and outcomes. You guys have seen this before? Well, we added to the display, we took the profit and loss statement we had. We said, okay, put in cash buildup, and then how does the district perform against its bond covenants? And this, you probably remember, bond covenants is a fancy word for financial targets that we, the district, promised the bondholders we would hit in our operational performance, and those are still in effect. Question? Feel free to ask any questions. After, about the next 3 meetings, you'll really get tired of me presenting this budget. But sorry, guys, here I am. Again, assumptions. Same assumptions we had before. Staffing, nothing's changed. Expenses changed. David pointed out one expense going down in the last. I upped it a little bit. I had said, okay, less legal expense the last year, but you know the lawyers don't want that. So. I got 2 of them in the room.
Couple of them in the room, actually.
And legal service is valuable, let me tell you. I added cash balance, revenue bond, covenant requirements, which are maximum annual debt service, MATS. Sounds like the magazine, but it's not. And days cash on hand.
Is that our reserve?
The maximum annual debt service?
No, when you say cash on hand,
Cash on
is
hand.
that the reserve?
That's
that we
the
have to maintain?
that's the unrestricted cash. In other words, it's not
Oh, okay.
reserved. Our reserve is with U.S. Bank, and we just can't touch it. This is the unrestricted cash that goes up. Okay. So, no real changes. If you can see, but down here, okay, debt service coverage, the requirement is 1.05, and we meet that. And the requirement is 1.05 for a entity with an A rating for their bonds. Overlake and its obligation group has an A rating, and we want to structure it so that that A rating stands behind the revenue bond debt. And then days cash on hand.
Because right now, our revenue bond debt is not rated.
We're unrated. We're unrated. And the A rating allows Overlake to basically make a lower payment. If they weren't A rated, they would pay 1.2% of debt service. With A rating, they pay 1.05%.
And it's legitimate to sort of piggyback on their rating.
Yeah, they'll set it up so that the obligator, the promiser, is overlaid and that A-rated entity. And that's going to be part of the legal setup. Yeah. Okay. And so cash buildup, you see, cash builds up to about $7 million on this. And what's done with the cash? Well, right now we say it's unrestricted. Part of it will go to a trust account. And that's going to be what is done with the cash will be, again, part of the negotiations as we go forward. And again, this will change somewhat, but I want to say, okay, here's the version we're starting out on. After we talk to Overlake and say, okay, what's a structure that we want? You'll see a number of iterations of this same budget going forward. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's doable, and we'll keep you informed on what does this budget look like going forward as we proceed through negotiations. So we see a number of versions of this. Questions, comments? This is really an update. You're going to get tired of this display, but we want to keep you informed as we go through.
One of the things I think it would be helpful, and I'm sure the taxpayers would want to know, hypothetically, if this does happen and Overlake does end up purchasing hospital
Mhm.
option.
Mhm.
What would be left for taxpayers when this is going to pay off at
Okay.
that point?
Okay,
And it would be nice to know, I think, to let people know that in 6 years, we're not gonna be $100 million in debt.
Mhm.
We're probably gonna be more like 40.
Mhm. So really, what's the taxpayer's
Obligation.
commitment, obligation, and
Yeah.
debt repayment? That would be, we'll add that to the next display. That's a good plan. Any other comments, questions?
You were going to do a study about how much it would take to reconstitute hospital operations.
We are in the process of looking at that, and we have some resources to wrap our arms around that number. That is, and not only number, you've got to look at what's the process, what are the options to reconstitute. There are a number of options that I hadn't even thought of, and then talking to, met Keith Clevin, he and I were chatting, and he opened up some new options that we're going to explore and then put numbers behind, and we will have that for you shortly, and they'll ask me to define shortly, but it, within a month.
Our goal is to have that the next one of these sort of studies.
The next
Yeah.
one of these
Not,
to have
not
that.
the one that happened before the board, meeting, the one that happened before.
Yeah, so to have that for you. So it's kind of I was telling Kim, it's taking kind of a scope number and then getting down to details. Here's really what we think is really good.
It's going to be an order of magnitude. It won't be a detailed estimate.
I think we can go into, will it be really fairly detailed on it? I think we can get something beyond just an order of magnitude scope number and have actually walk you through assumptions we've made. Here's how we got there. Here's the pieces behind that. So more than just, I think it's that, here's why we think it's that, and have a pretty detailed explanation of how we got there. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question that I'm trying to think how to phrase it. I know in the LOI, there's that after 5 years, they either have to purchase it or give it back to us, or so my question is, if in 5 years, let's just say, I mean hypothetically, we want to get that back, can we put something to that effect in the definitive agreement? That has to do with purchasing the hospital. I mean, I'm trying to frame it where it's much more, I'll think about, but that's just my thoughts that I wanted to share. Like in 5 years, let's say, the taxpayer, wanted, hey, we don't want to sell the
The
hospital.
place that we put that, if you pull up the trust agreement documents that we worked through,
That's where it would.
inside there is where there is repercussions to making a choice not to buy the hospital when they're called in 2025, because that means all the trust dollars are no longer available in the state of the district. That's the place where we prevent that.
I just want to mention that before we do the definitive, that all those things can be,
It's all
cleaned up. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those types of provisions will be built into the definitive agreement, well vetted with you guys.
So we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years,
That's right. Well, it's the 5 years
Maybe
is the
doing
first time
really
the bonds are callable. So that's
No,
right. That's
no.
true.
I mean, we
Go,
don't.
Gene.
Yeah, we're not going to wait to 2025 to hear their decision.
No.
How much lead time are we going to be given on that decision? And can we start looking for another partner if they decided, as one of our options, if they decided that they're not going to buy or continue?
I can't give you a definitive answer, but it would be prudent to have a notice period.
6 months.
6 months.
6 months is a notice period. It's
That long enough?
Oh, okay.
I think so. Given what I briefly learned about the options for a restart and the fact that you can hire people to help you, or if you need to say you want to sell the hospital, so you did. There are actually, there's a path that way too. So there are a number of paths, and I think the 6 month is probably a fair time
To get notice.
to give notice and start, okay, planning what's going to happen. And it's a lot of work, but I think that's a fair time.
Well, fair time frame for maybe private entities that are quick to be able to make decisions because they can meet
Yeah.
more than once a month.
Okay.
Public entities like us,
Again,
You can
Take
meet
long
more than
time.
once a month.
I know, but it just seems like everything
I'm not
takes
saying I'm sure, but this
really
kind of
long.
discussion will go, that's, sometimes, David, I think you think I stake a position and just say, well, that sounds good to me now, but again, something to think about. Because there's a lot to think about, and there's no final decisions. Everybody has their own opinions, and that's something we need to work out, and we will have to decide, okay, this is what we think is fair based on what we have to do.
Well, 6 months formal notice may be okay, but I would hope that during that last year, we develop a feeling of whether this is going to go forward and be ready at the 6 month point if it looks or has led up to a feeling that this is not working. So I'd like to have a year, frankly, but
Yeah, you're right.
Steve, may I ask? So I'm looking for our line for population health. And I think it's that change in net position, but I'm also seeing, no, we're gonna commit that money toward the debt service.
No, we haven't decided what we're going to commit the money to.
Okay.
One of the things we'll have to decide when we finalize this is how do we pay for population health? Is part of this,
Yeah.
oh, thank God, part of this cash buildup
Okay.
going to fund population health? And how does that work, kind of accounting requires to have them shown? This isn't the basics, but this is the kind of foundation we'll do as we go forward and change it with just various iterations. Questions, comments? Thank you very much. Now,
I just want to say, Jen, the population health is a big deal for me.
it is for all of us.
It's a really big deal for all of us,
And-
yeah.
Although I have to, tip my hat to the bean counters that we also really have to be aware of our
Yeah, we do.
obligations to the bondholders and
Yeah, we do.
meeting that 1.5 mass coverage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that has to be our first obligation, but boy, it would be great to find some money for population.
The only money that we have said we've obligated to be put directly to paying bonds are the extra additional 1%. We get about $30,000
Every year with
We've been
taxes.
doing that for about 4 years. It's in a cash account sitting by itself, I think.
no, it's mixed in, but it's separated on our books.
We've actually had,
Yeah, there's an
ledger.
entry for board designated funds
so
on our balance.
that's the only monies that we have that have been obligated only to pay taxes. If we're able to at some point.
Yeah.
That's, or bonds, I guess. Not taxes, bonds.
Bonds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think we decided that when it went over about 104 million.
Yeah.
And I think we're at 96 million, we've paid about 8 million since that
And generally prefer to be called very
time. So,
Just
anyway, I
Okay,
just, a little background.
so we're done with polity, we're done with post-transaction budget. Public comment, do we have any public comment?
For the record, Scott Scowcroft from West Seattle. I regretted not mentioning it at the Board of Commissioners meeting couple of weeks ago. But the subject of reconstituting a hospital foundation was brought up. And I just think that that's a wonderful idea. And I want to commend the board for thinking about that. There are just tons of people in the Snoqualmie Valley who want to give their money away, and they do it every day and every year. And if you don't have a hospital foundation, then you're passing up an opportunity to let them have their money, their philanthropy, be local, and be local for healthcare. Also, a foundation can go out and seek grants. And so that's a second great reason for a hospital foundation. And the third is just, it can be an ambassador, it can be a champion for the hospital district. If the hospital is operated by Overlake, they can champion that. If there is a verdant model public health outreach that the board of directors, board of commissioners want to do, they can do that. One thing about a nonprofit organization, though, is even if you set it up, even if it's your child, it is independent from you. The executive director answers to the board of directors, and the board of directors have a fiduciary responsibility to their mission. So there's a bright line between the district and the board of commissioners and the nonprofit organization. Is that a problem? No, but it's just something that you would should be aware of. And from everyone nodding your heads up and down, I can see that you do realize that. The second thing I wanted to just mention was I was very happy to see that the hospital district hosted a symposium on the SAIL program. Is that the proper way of phrasing it? It's almost like coming full circle, because it was 8 or 9 years ago that the hospital district got a $50,000 grant to introduce the SAIL program to the world. It had been developed in Tacoma, and they had certification of SAIL instructors down there. That's where they did their evidence base. But the first institution, the first organization to really introduce it to the outside world was the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital District. And it was the district that certified numerous instructors throughout the region. It's a district that underwrote the SAIL program at the Mount Si Senior Center for a few years. So there's deep roots in terms of SAIL, many connections between SAIL and the district. And the SAIL success is in no small measure Nancy Rickerson's and the hospital district's efforts to really promote it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Upcoming board meetings, affiliation work study will be Thursday, September 12th, 2019, 4:30 to 6 in the East West Conference Room. Our regular business meeting will be Thursday, September 12th, 2019 at 6:30 North South Conference Room. And work study will be September 25th, 2019 at 6:30 North South Conference Room. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second. Madam Chairman, prior to adjourning, I will refer you to footnotes so you won't be able to sleep tonight. Tell you the acronym of HCAPS. It comes from CMS. It's called the Hospital Consumer Assessment of Healthcare Provider Systems. That is statutorily required by CMS, and you can find that on any of their websites.
Now you can
Okay.
Now you can sleep.
You guys will sleep.
I was wondering what I'll have to write the whole thing out. Okay, so moving right along, we adjourn. We adjourn.